All right, we are right at 1 o'clock, so let's get started. Like to welcome everyone to today's Tech Talk. My name is Scott Englert. I am the director of the marketing team here at Axoft. And for everybody who is new to our Tech Talks, this is a monthly YouTube live event that we do. Well, excuse me, actually, it's a live Zoom event that then turns into a YouTube event after we do the recording. So that actually brings me into some of our housekeeping items. Well, before we get into that, I will actually talk about today's Tech Talk subject is increasing employee safety and compliance at the job site, which is a really important topic, and we're excited to talk with you guys about it today, and how Teamworks can help with that, and just some overall general ideas from our guest speaker. So some housekeeping items. This is a recorded event, so later on, if you want to come back and see some of the stuff that we talked about, or if you are not able to view the whole thing and you just kind of want to come back, we do record this event and then we post it live, or excuse me, we post it up on our video page that is on our website and also to our YouTube channel. So you are more than welcome to grab that. And in fact, it should be available either today or tomorrow if you'd like to watch the recorded version of it. If you have any questions that you would like to have answered at the end of the Tech Talk, you can do that through the chat feature and send in any questions that you may have, and we'll try our best to get to those at the very end. We have a little bit of a extra time set aside for some Q&A stuff, so we'll get to that as well, and feel free to, we'll monitor that chat feature. And without further ado, we'll get into our guest of today. Today's guest is a good colleague of mine who actually has been with Axoft for 17 years. And he is the Vice President of Product. I'd like to welcome Brian Baer. And we do have a little note here from him that he was so kind to share with us. He's always been interested in technology and business, but was kind of disappointed by his high school basketball coaches because he's 6'9" and didn't play basketball at all in high school. Which coincidentally, if you can see behind me, I'm a big Tampa Bay Lightning fan, and you happen to be the same height as my favorite Tampa Bay Lightning player, Victor Hedman. He's also 6'9", and it really helps him on the ice. So I can imagine that your coaches were like, "Man, you've got it all there at 6'9". Why don't you play for us?"
Yeah, I missed. Yeah, many people have told me I missed my calling with that. So,
well, I'm sure I don't think so, because if anybody who knows Brian knows that he is a wealth of information and knowledge in the technology sector of things, and man, he's worn a lot of hats here at Axoft over the years. I've known him for a long time because I've also been with Axoft for 15 years. So yeah, so we've been colleagues for that long, and man, he really does know his stuff. So I think you definitely found your calling. So
well, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so let's get right into the subject for today, which is, if my slide will switch, there we go, increasing employee safety and compliance at the job site. So I just kind of wanted to start off by talking a little bit about what is employee safety and compliance, and why is it so essential to companies with mobile workforces to go ahead and prioritize that?
That's a great question. I mean, safety is really one of those areas that business owners, they can't overlook. I mean, it's something that applies to almost any company in business today. Different workplace safety programs are really designed to help develop and manage a culture of safety throughout the entire company. It's something that helps not only just reduce workplace injuries, also helps reduce worker compensation costs for the business owners, but it also helps improve the employee morale. I mean, nobody wants to come into a place where you're afraid you might get injured. I mean, some people obviously work more hazard-prone jobs than others. I mean, we working for a technology company, I mean, our biggest threat on any given day is carpal tunnel from mice and keyboards and stuff like that. But when you start talking to business owners who, many people who on here, I'm sure have run different construction, maintenance, trucking companies, anybody that works with large equipment and stuff like that, you know that stuff you have to take that seriously. I mean, companies have to adhere to all the rules and regulations set in place by OSHA, the Occupational Safety and Health Administration, federal guidelines that are all set. And they have to, again, document their compliance to these rules and regulations, or there's a chance that they're going to incur hefty fines if they ever run into issues and they don't have proper documentation, and making sure that they're following all these rules and regulations, making sure they're keeping track of any hazards that are recorded, any remediations that are done. It just opens up companies for a lot of penalties if they're not careful. But as we talk about that, there's two parts to this. I mean, safety and compliance, they're really two different things. You can be aware of what those standards are. You can understand what the rules are, what the regulations are. But if you're not following those, if you're not actually in compliance with those rules and regulations, that's the key. I mean, you have to know about the rules, but you also have to act on them and make sure that as a company, you're following them and making sure that you're always promoting your employees' health and safety. I mean, there's multiple benefits to the value of taking that seriously. I mean, if you have this type of program in place at a company wide, that you're really focusing on your employees' safety and compliance, not just at a job site, but also at the office. I mean, it's beneficial because it's going to obviously help prevent workplace injuries and illnesses. You're going to improve your compliance with the different laws and regulations that are out there. You're going to reduce your overall costs. There might be some initial costs that you think that get rolled up at first about implementing this program and going through the training. But long term, if you think about the benefits to reducing your insurance costs, your healthcare costs, any potential fines or litigation that may come up, it's beneficial to a company in the long run. And also it helps to really engage your workers and get them feeling like they're a part of the company and want to continue on with this.
Absolutely. And I just kind of wanted to follow up with that. I recall one customer that we went to visit. I'll keep them a little bit anonymous because, obviously, but they were a roofing company, and something happened on the job site, and the owner of the company came and talked to us, wanted to talk to us specifically, and said, because of your software and us being OSHA compliant and us being able to prove that we were OSHA compliant, you 100% saved our business. We would have had to close our doors based on the fines that we would have received from that one particular incident. So you're absolutely right. Those hidden costs that you just, you're not sure about that something like that could ever happen. That they're, having those things in place can really save potentially your business. Yeah. Which is amazing.
Absolutely. And I mean, you hit it there. Documentation is key. I mean, it's great to say, yes, I checked that piece of equipment. Yes, I did this. Yes, I did that. But if you don't have the documentation, the proof that is actually done, it doesn't do you any good. So that is one of the key things to being compliant, is making sure you have this documentation. And again, having that documentation and how you can bring up that documentation, how you can show it and recall it, is one of the key aspects of being compliant with this. And then again, continuing on from there, not only is just having that documentation important, but being able to review it, figuring out, okay, where were the challenges? Where were potential problems based off that? How can we always look at that, review it, and improve going forward is key. So having that information in a way that's readily accessible and always able to be accessed is key for companies.
Yeah, absolutely. So actually, to follow up with that, on the sort of documentation and digital side, acquiring a digital solution, how does that help increase the job safety and compliance on a digital level?
So it really goes back to, again, if continuing down the documentation route, I mean, a lot of people today, I mean, even today, if you're looking in grocery stores and other places, you see paper sign sheets of people who inspected stuff here and there. And that's great. It's there, it's visible. But if you think about it, okay, it's paper. What happens if it gets wet? What happens if it gets lost? What happens if it gets crumpled up and thrown out with trash on accident? That's always a challenge with paper process. Digital solutions really can help companies with keeping, again, a permanent record of that type of information. Um, Having those types of forms or those types of information in a digital format can really help make the process more detailed and in a lot of cases more streamlined, because there's a lot of things that can be done with digital forms, again, being filled out either from phones, from tablets, from a web browser. And you can do a lot of things with digital forms that you just can't do with regular paper. You can attach photos to them. So again, if you're out inspecting some of your equipment and you notice a defect, or if you're out inspecting a job site and you notice a hazard, if you notice something that's going to cause a problem, you can just, with a digital solution, you can just use your phone, take a picture of that, attach it to that form, and then you have a permanent record of that particular event. You can get digital signatures from the manager. So if you have people there that you need to, again, sign off on any of these actions or any of these events or any of these forms or inspections that get done, having that there in a digital format that can be recalled at any point in time. And again, not worrying about if anything gets lost. So it's a huge benefit just from that digital forms and digital record keeping concept. But that's really kind of just one benefit to a digital solution. There's a lot of other features and functionality that digital solutions can bring to a company. So not just the digital forms, but if you're interested in any type of GPS location of your workers. So again, a lot of companies, maybe they need to send their workers out in teams or multiple people, making sure you don't have a single person out. I think back to a company that I remember, they actually serviced power lines. And they were never allowed to have one person out there at a time. It was always out and sending people out in teams of at least two, because you have somebody, again, climbing a power pole or working on something, and heaven forbid something happens, he falls, he gets electrocuted, something, and there's nobody there to check in on him. That's obviously a huge problem. So by using GPS, you can actually, again, have these workers with their mobile devices and be able to locate, okay, yes, I see I have 2 people on this job site. I see I have 4 people over on this job site. Hey, I have 1 person on his own over here. Okay, why is he by himself? Why isn't there anybody else with him? And again, it's something that you can very easily kind of follow up on and keep track of that. So again, not only just the digital recording, but the GPS location of that is something that can be very beneficial to customers as well.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a really interesting point, and something I actually had never thought of. But just being able to keep track of that and have a record of that, you did have the proper people in place when the potential incident had occurred. Yeah, that's fantastic. And one of the things I wanted to follow up on, one of my favorite kind of features that we have on the wireless form side that I think is really neat is, and it goes back to eliminating mistakes, and the way that it could potentially do that is, when you have a paper form and somebody just writes something down, they could be writing something that is incorrect, or does not apply to that certain item, because maybe they don't know, or maybe they just obviously made a mistake. In our forms with drop downs, et cetera, decision logic that goes into play, it eliminates the possibility of them choosing something incorrectly for that particular area. So, eliminating those mistakes is huge as well. And I think that's one of the coolest features that we have as well. So
Yeah, absolutely. The ability to the drop downs, the radio buttons, making your workers out in the field, they're a lot of the times they're going to have work gloves on. They're going to be on phones. They're not going to want to try to type in a lot of information. So we want to make the process for the guy in the field as easy as possible, using that conditional logic, using those drop downs so that they just have to select an item. One of the other great features is sometimes just doing an audio recording. So instead of actually trying to type out a long sentence or a long block of text about something, just let them record a quick 30-second audio clip of what they saw and what was going on. And again, that is a permanent record that stays with that action. And And one of the other things we can even take it a step further is take that form that they've started. A guy in the field could find some type of inspection, something was wrong with his piece of equipment, and that could turn around, and after he fills that out based off some type of conditional logic, if he finds a defect, have that turn around and get routed immediately to a maintenance person to go out and actually take care of that. So a lot of things can really be done with that digital solution. Make it more real time, make it something that's not, okay, let me fill this out. Now I have to pick up a phone, call somebody, figure out who I need to call, really help that guy in the field make it as seamless and quick as possible.
Yeah, absolutely. Introducing some automation there. Yeah, that's great. Very nice, very nice. So, what can be some ways that organizations can prevent poor job site safety? Yeah.
There's a bunch of different ways that can be done, but probably the single biggest item that needs to start is it needs to be a top down initiative. It's got to be something that your management and your leadership are committed to, having a safety and compliance program, making sure that they are willing to invest the time and the effort to go through this. It can start with a basic program. You don't have to try and solve everything at once. Start off something simple, implement goals, implement some milestones, and try to move from there. And again, having a digital solution with that is something that can benefit with that, because you can start off simple. Let's just start maybe by tracking our workers and making sure they're where they're at. Then let's start introducing some of the digital forms to fill out their inspections or filling out their incident reports. And it can be something that can be rolled out in different phases. The next part of that is, after having the kind of the leadership involved and on board with it, you have to get the workers to buy in, because if you don't have the workers willing to adapt and follow through with this, it's not going to do you a lot of good, because they're the ones who are out in the field. They're the ones who are going to see the problems. They're the ones who are going to need to report it and take action on this. So you have to get them engaged. You have to encourage them to participate. You have to give them the time and the resources that are necessary for them to participate in this program. You have to make sure they're willing to, again, get the training, understand how to use the software, how to use these processes. It's something that they have to be involved in. And then not only getting them involved with that, but you have to encourage them to actually report when they see issues. So you have to have a process for them to report issues that they may see. If they see a hazard at the job site, if they're not feeling well, or if they incur an injury, obviously, if it's a serious injury, they're probably not going to be picking up their phone and filling out a form at that point. That goes back to, again, having a team of people there who are, again, able to contact the necessary medical emergency teams if needed. But then again, follow up and document the process of what happened. Again, if something happened on the job site, take pictures of what happened there. Take pictures of any faulty equipment or any hazards that may have been involved with it. But having that process is key. But then also key is making sure that the workers get some type of feedback that their concerns and their items that have been reported have been addressed. Because again, if it's one thing for a worker to just submit all of this stuff, if they don't see any type of remediation, any type of actions taken on this to solve these issues, they're going to tire of the program, and they're going to lose their involvement, and they're going to stop participating in it. So a lot of things done there that can be started with to get this going. As we talked about, looking at a digital solution is something that can help streamline and improve this process a little bit easier. Pretty much everybody today has a cell phone on them, whether an Android or an iOS phone. And having a digital solution that they can open up and just fill this stuff out on their phone very easily, take the pictures, that's a huge starting point to get this rolling in a company. Letting them use digital forms to do those inspections, letting them do any of the hazard reporting with the images and stuff like that. And again, what we're talking a lot about people at job sites and again, out with equipment, doing inspections. I mean, I'll go back to us at Axsoft. I mean, when COVID really hit, everyone here, we had to fill out just a daily wellness form. Just what's your temperature? Are you feeling well? Just basically kind of that proof that, okay, hey, you have a fever or a temperature, don't come into the office, just to help prevent people who were not feeling well, who may have potentially been infected from coming in and spreading it. So again, everything we're talking about, yes, it applies to our customers here, or applies to business owners here who are in that type of industries, construction, field service, lawn care, anybody that's going out and working on stuff. This could also apply to anybody who's in an office environment. If they're really looking for that type of just kind of daily wellness check form, is something that can be done as well. So a lot of things that can be done to really help an organization improve or prevent that prevent poor safety at the job site. And then after all of that is done, like I mentioned before, you have to go back and analyze and review what came in. It's got to be, you can't just submit this. You have to look at it. You have to figure out where you can improve. Again, you should always be improving. You should always be reviewing what's happening and looking to see how you can be better the next day.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know that you touched on it a little bit in the previous question there, with, if somebody is seriously injured, that obviously they're not going to be filling out a form or anything like that. But so in the case of an emergency, how can organizations use something like this to respond more effectively and quickly?
So there's a couple different things that can be done. So in the case of an emergency, there's a couple of critical features. The first of which is you need to be able to easily communicate with your employees, and you need to be able to locate where they're at. So there's a couple different ways that can be done. You can use, if your application has a messaging capability, it can be something that you can use to do a direct message back and forth to your employees. You can also use the GPS location to find out where somebody's at. So if somebody, again, calls you, so again, let's say an employee in the field injures themselves, and let's assume that they are not near other employees that can help identify where that's at. If that employee can at least, again, contact their office, their dispatcher, their manager, somebody, whether it's a phone call, whether it's a text message, whether it's an in-application message saying, help, I've hurt myself, I need help. The system, if they're using our GPS tracking, can then locate down to where that employee is at. So now that dispatcher or manager can talk with the 911 or emergency dispatching and provide information as to where that employee is. So that's a huge benefit to having that type of digital solution. Using that GPS information just to know where your employees are throughout the day, being able to quickly identify and communicate with them if they need to be redirected. If you find out, again, going back to, hey, I have one guy out here working on his own, okay, that can't be done. Let me figure out who's the closest other employee near him. Let's look at that GPS and figure out who's closest to him and route him over there so that he's got somebody else there to, even if it's not in an emergency situation, just let me make sure I route someone over there so that he's not by himself anymore. So there's a lot of things that can be done to help organizations respond. But that knowing where their employees are at is huge. Being able to easily communicate is huge. And keeping your managers who are either in the office or at the job site up to date with that type of information is a necessity. So again, if you have people in an office, having them being able to look at and find out where their employees are at through a web browser, through automated alerts, stuff like that is one thing, but also being able to get that information out to a manager in the field who may not be sitting looking at a computer all day, every day, being able to send him text message alerts, being able to send him email-based alerts, being able to send him text messages and not messages, but like internal communications and stuff. All of that is very critical to, again, helping organizations in an emergency.
Yeah, it definitely seems like communication is the key, and having multiple ways to communicate to not only the workers in the field, but also management is absolutely essential. So yeah, that's spot on. Yeah. So where does Axoff's platform come into play with enhancing the job safety and compliance?
So Axoff's Teamworks platform is really kind of an all-in-one mobile resource management platform. We have many different features and functionality, a lot of which we've touched on today. So we've got the digital form collection. So one of the key aspects for this is, again, letting your employees be out in the field, capture this information in a digital format, making the paperwork faster, easier, more detailed, doing the photo capture, doing the routing, doing the calculations, the drop downs, anything we can do to help your employee capture data, capture accurate data, and capture it quickly and easily is huge. Those forms can then turn around and be emailed out. They can be integrated in with any other systems that you may be using. They can be, again, reviewed in the office. A lot of information can be done based off of those wireless forms. They can be routed over to their supervisors. They can be routed over to their maintenance department to take action on. Very powerful functionality with the wireless forms. The next part is the GPS tracking. So again, we've talked about the benefits of GPS tracking and how it's used to help track your employees and understand where they're at during the workday, make sure that they're not in any type of dangerous situations. The TeamWorks platform offers a couple different methodologies for GPS tracking. So one, any of those digital forms that we talked about, they are all geo-stamped. So they all get a GPS location of where the employee was when those forms were filled out. So we go back to that example that you talked about with the roofing company who had a problem. They filled out potentially an inspection report. Okay, it's great that they filled out the inspection report, but now that digital form has the time it was submitted, the employee who submitted it, the location he was at when he was submitted it. So you have proof that this employee submitted this form 45 minutes ago, and he was right here at this job site. So it's not like you're worried about somebody saying, oh, let me go fill this piece of paper out at home, and worrying about where they were they actually there when they inspected it. So that's key for that. The full-time GPS tracking is anybody who's got an Android or an iOS device. The application has the option to, again, use our intelligent tracking to basically track that device during whatever work hours or specified time period we want. You can have it set that they are tracked 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. I know a lot of companies, their employees will revolt at that. So we also have many options for setting, okay, I want to track them Monday through Friday from 8 to 5. I want to only track them when they're clocked in to the application. I only want to track them when they are actually logged in and using the application. So many different options for that. The clocked in option I talked about goes right hand in hand with our timekeeping. So again, this is less about the employee safety, but we also offer a timekeeping module built into the system. So if your employees are maybe leaving from their house to go to a job site and they're not coming by the office, if you have a punch clock in the office that they use, if they go straight to the job site, they can use their mobile application to actually clock in and clock out right there from the handset. The benefit of that is, again, we get that geolocation, we get the GPS location of where they were when they clocked in, making sure that employees are actually at the job site when they're clocking in. The other benefit is we can actually take that full power of our wireless forms and the digital forms that I talked about and apply that to that clock in. So let's say when an employee clocks in, we have one of our processes is when I clock in, I need to make sure, do I have all of my protective equipment? Do I have hard hats? Do I have my boots on? Do I have this? Maybe I need to take a picture of the job site before I start to make sure there's no hazards. All of that can be captured before the employee even clocks in to start work. So there's a lot of information that can be captured right there. We can also potentially track their vehicles. So not only can we track the actual employees and their handsets, if they're using any type of company vehicles, we can track those vehicles as well. This is great for, again, potential theft or asset recovery. So again, if you've got a lot of vehicles that have critical equipment on there, again, if one of those happens to get stolen, if there's a vehicle tracker in there, you know where that device or that vehicle is or that asset is at any time. Doesn't have to just be vehicles, could be cranes, could be anything with a power supply we could wire that into. We even have some options where you can track assets that may not have power, like tractor trailers and stuff like that. And then the last thing I'll kind of talk about is the scheduler. So again, we're talking a lot about job sites and what can we do about job site safety. The application has a fully built-in work order dispatching system. So again, having your employees know where they're going, having your employees know what they need to do when they get there, having a very specific process flow that they need to follow when they get there with a very specific sequence of steps. They need to do an inspection first to make sure everything is good. Then they need to do a next step. That can be accomplished using a kind of a work order dispatching. You can set up a sequence of statuses. You can require your employees to capture very specific data when they fill out that information. And at the very end, when they complete that job, they can just use the mobile application to capture a digital signature from the on-site supervisor or the customer or whoever they're working with right there. So a lot of different capabilities available in our TeamWorks platform that can help with this.
Yeah, for sure, and really covered quite a bit. So thank you so much for all that information on the TeamWorks application, but then also how it affects the employees' safety and compliance part of it. So we're actually coming close to our time here, so we kind of wanted to get into our question portion, and we did have a couple of questions that were submitted. And the first one comes in as how might an organization use the solution to assure all employees see a new compliance bulletin, accept and comply to it? So, there's something new that's come in from, the overall maybe management corporate, and we want to get that message out to all of the employees. How would we go about doing something like that?
So there's a couple different ways we could go about that. Probably the simplest and easiest way is just using the built-in messaging capability that we have within the TeamWorks platform. So you have the ability for a supervisor to go in and they can create a new message. They can send it out to individual employees. They can send it out to a group of employees. They can send it out to the entire organization. They can go in there and send that out. They can put some information if there's a new link to a website that's got the new rules and regulations. They can put that directly in the message. So they can send that out. All of the employees will get a notification on their mobile app about that, or in their web application if they're only using the web application. And then we'll get kind of like read receipts for every customer or for every employee to make sure that they actually opened that up and looked at those messages. So something can be used right like that to send out that kind of intra-company message there.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. And then what industries in particular is this most important for job site safety and compliance? There's lots of different industries out there. What would what would be the most important ones for something like this?
I mean, the job site and safety, I mean, safety and compliance really applies to almost any business. If we think about kind of what it's really important for, you're really going to look at industries and companies that do a lot with maybe heavy equipment. So again, doing inspections on this equipment, making sure that everything's in good working order, having a historical record of any of the inspections, any of the maintenance or items that need to be done on this type of equipment is huge. In addition to that, anything where, again, going back to kind of the GPS tracking, making sure that you have teams of people. So anything where you are in a potential risk of being injured or in a hazardous area when you're working, having that GPS location, having that type of information, that type of real-time updates. So again, electrical companies who are out working power lines, people who are doing oil and gas inspection, again, companies who, I mean, even as down to people who are maybe out doing tree removal. If you have somebody out there working on trimming trees, again, one wrong mistake and maybe a tree branch falls and hurts somebody, just having that safety net of knowing, okay, here's where my guy's at, here's the location he was at. And again, if I don't hear from him in a certain amount of time, then I can follow up with him, and just having that information is huge.
Yeah, absolutely. And kind of what we were talking about before, the coverage for the kind of protection of your company as well. Having that information on hand and having a true real record that you can go back and verify everything with, yeah, it really kind of does go across the board for all the different types of verticals that are out there. So,
Yep.
yeah, fantastic. Excellent. All right. Well, that actually covers the questions that we had from the chat portion. And one thing that we did want to talk about real quick before we got off is that if you are interested in getting some of the features that are available from Teamworks that can help with some of the safety and compliance and all kinds of other stuff as well, we are right now offering a free 14-day trial of our all-in-one solution, which is called Teamworks, and it is a full version of the software. There's no light, it's not a light version or anything like that. You get all of the bells and whistles included in that to try out for 14 days and really give it a good test run. So if you're happen to be interested in that, you can go to our website at axoff.com, try Teamworks for free. It's actually on the screen right now, or you can just go to axoff.com and there's links there as well that get to the 14-day trial. So we wanted to thank you all for joining us for this Tech Talk. I really wanted to thank Brian for all of the wealth of knowledge that you kind of, I learned a lot, actually, believe it or not. I've been working here for 15 years, but I learned new stuff all the time. So really good stuff. I really appreciate it. And thank you all for attending. And once again, this will be available on our website, the recorded version, probably either later on this afternoon or tomorrow. So if you'd like to check it out, please do so. Thank you guys so much.
All right, thanks, Scott.